So here's a funny story for you. When episode 40 of the show went live, well, actually it was a few weeks after that, the AOB Pinot Noir Cask review had tagged the AOB Distilleries Instagram account, as I often do, and generally I get no response, nothing. But not this time. Imagine my surprise when Pete Jaffe, one of the co-founders of the AOB Distillery, reached out to me and told me they still have bottles of that stuff. Would I like one? Well, hell yeah, I want a bottle, and here it is, in the flesh. And its actual name is Walking Along the Shore. Yeah, now I'm holding the bottle. Here's what I said last time about this bottle. My God, though, look at the bottle. Kind of weird, but kind of cool, but mostly weird. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird, but it is kind of cool. And I actually kind of like it. Well, anyway. Look, let's take this baby out for another spin, shall we? As today I'm going to re-review the AOB Pinot Noir Cask. Actually, it's called the AOB Walking Along the Shore Single Malt Whisky. Welcome to Whisky. I'm John Chidgey. Please remember to drink responsibly, only ever in moderation, and where and when it is appropriate to do so. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, just take a moment now to like and subscribe and visit engineer.network/whisky without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. And also, a gentle reminder, if you do like the look of this polo shirt, you can grab your own if you'd like. There's a link on the website and YouTube. Now, I think we should do a quick recap before we get stuck in. The AOB Distillery was formed by Pete Jaffe and Matt Parkin, who were longtime friends from Brisbane in 2017, establishing the distillery in Mullumbimby, and that's in northern New South Wales, in the hinterland, not too far from Byron Bay, actually. Originally, they started as Gypsy Distilling, however, they preferred the name Art of Booze, and then finally chose to simply rebrand it as its initials, AOB. This is actually a more recent whiskey release by AOB, that's this one, and it's only been released via Liqour Loot, at least for the moment, and that's how I came across it. The new make that went into this whiskey was produced for AOB in conjunction with the Adams Distillery in Tasmania, as AOB had some contracted distilling at that time between Adams as well as Killara Distillery. Now, as I said in episode 40, it was distilled in 2019, but it used AOB's specified malt recipe, and it was then aged in 100-litre American and French oak ex-Pinot Noir barrels in Tasmania before being relocated to Mullumbimby for the remainder of its maturation before it was finally bottled. Now, before we get to the costing and the review though, there is actually something that I've been thinking about for a long time now, and it's about how I rank whiskies based on their cost. And honestly, I've been struggling with rating certain whiskies, and whilst I haven't had any specific feedback from listeners, I've spoken with a bunch of whiskey nerds through whiskey clubs and online, and I think I have a solution. The intention is to be fairer to unique and limited bottlings, as well as smaller or craft distilleries, and maybe level the playing field a little bit, at least on the cost side. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, let me explain. The problem is that I've been looking at the cost of a bottle in whiskey as its absolute value. And absolute cost is very important since most people are price sensitive. And having said that, the problem that's now become very obvious to me, the more I learn about whiskey, is that it's kind of like comparing a mass-produced car, like a sedan, alongside a highly customized, low-production volume sedan. Now, they're both sedans. They'll both get you from point A to point B, but the one is more likely to have more of the nice touches and features that you like, compared with the mass-produced, one-size-fits-all sedan design. So why not do something analogous to that when I'm ranking whiskey as well? So I think there's two fundamental dimensions to the class of a whiskey. First of all, is it a core range? Is it readily available? Is it a consistent offering? Or is it a small batch, limited release, or a single barrel offering? Now, there's no question that single barrel offerings cost more than readily available core offerings. That's one dimension to keep in mind. We'll get to that in a second. The second dimension, though, is the scale of the distillery. How much do they make in a given year? I don't mean money, I mean volume. Because the more they make, the more likely they'll be able to realize an economy of scale. The problem, though, is how do you define an artisan distillery? Or actually, it's more regularly called a craft distillery. There are several different definitions all around the world, but for me, I'm going to be focusing on an Australian scale, specifically my own state of Queensland, where the government defines, for whatever reason, an artisan distillery as one that produces less than 450 kilolitres of spirit every year. It doesn't mention ABV, but it'll do as a metric. So I went back through all of the whiskies I've ever reviewed and categorized them wherever I could, based on whether they could be considered to be craft or not. For example, Starward, Lark, Archie Rose, they are not craft distilleries, not even close. But other ones, like Kinglake, AOB here, and of course Cape Byron, well, they technically are. Based on my own research, with dozens of sample points, quality brackets, and a mixture of vatted, single barrel, and core range mass-produced whiskey options, the difference between craft and volume is somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5 times the cost. Meaning an equivalent craft whiskey will end up being 1.5 to 2.5 times more than a mass-produced one, on average. When you split out the high proportion of single batch and single barrel offerings from craft distilleries, because that's distorting the numbers, we'll lean towards the lower end, and we're just going to call it a 1.5x factor. Or if you would rather, think of it as a 50% craft overhead cost. For single barrels though, how are we going to tackle that? Well, the problem is that irrespective of whether you're a craft distillery or your single barrels tend to have about a 50% or so premium over their standard equivalent age statement offerings. Of course, you can throw all of this out the window for brands like Macallan, or really high age statement offerings, for which none of these rules or guidelines or anything apply. They're just really expensive because they can be. So moving forward, I'm now going to rank cost against two cost scales, depending upon the distillery in question. One for craft, and for mass production or commercial scale distilleries. And I'll also note when there's a 50% core offering markup for single barrels. The cost brackets, therefore, will ultimately look like this. A cost of one low, ultra affordable for craft, will be $75 up to $75. Cost of one, very affordable for craft, will be up to $120. Cost of two is affordable for good craft whiskey, that's up to $225. And a cost of three is stretching the budget a bit for craft, that's up to $450. That's all in Australian dollars, of course. Now the cost brackets for 4 and up to, which is up to $1,000, and 5, which is over $1,000, we're going to leave them as they are, since if you're going to spend $1,000 or more on a bottle, you got enough money, you just don't care about any of this, right? So really, who cares? Right. Okay, this is all lovely, I hear you say, but why the hell would you pay more money for something that's almost the same quality and impact on your taste buds as a more mass-produced alternative? Well, I can think of two really good reasons why, apart from having the money to do it, which probably goes without saying. The first reason is that craft distilleries can make something that is different enough from your mainstream options that it might speak specifically to your own personal likes and dislikes in a way that no mainstream offering ever has. And whilst it can be hard to find, once you do find it, it can absolutely be worth it. Mainstream offerings are built on consistency and mass market appeal, and they need to make sure the majority of consumers like it, sometimes all over the world, so they will tend to stick to a specific flavor profile. And that's totally fine, right? It's just that it could get a little bit samey, or maybe it's just not quite what you're looking for. But the second reason is a bit different. There's sometimes there's a desire to support a local distillery, and whether that's local, like literally local in terms of your own state or country, like for me, supporting Australian whiskey gives me that kind of patriotic, sort of kind of nice feeling. I mean, I'm not really sure how patriotic Australians really are, but if I'm honest, it is something of a nice feeling, rather than not much of a feeling for Johnny Walker, I guess. Anyway, whatever. Also, the desire to support them, especially if you visit the distillery, you'll often get to speak to the owner. That's often the distiller, the master of wood, the head tour guide. They're everything. And that's a personal connection with another person, and you truly want to support them on that level and what they're making. And that's something that no commercial distillery can ever have. They're just too big, and hence no one person can do it all. That's the tyranny of scale. Okay, so with that all said, we should probably get to doing a review here. This 700ml bottle costs $135 Australian plus $10 postage within Australia from AOB. But to get it, you do have to email the distillery, at least for the moment, if you want a bottle, like for now. Now, according to Pete, they will soon put it up on their website in the future, and you can still get one now if you'd like. It has no age statement, has a 46% ABV, and Pete informed me that AOB never chill, filter, or colour any of their offerings. It is a limited release whiskey. Now, the website has nothing to say about their offering since you can't buy it online. Well, duh, obviously. My tasting notes from the previous review of this can be summarised as follows. So I said the colour was a golden brown, almost mahogany. Legs were not very many, very slow running. On the nose, strong berries, raspberry, plum, cherry, vanilla. The mouthfeel, chewy and oily. And the palate, dark toffee, burnt caramel and berries. And the finish has cinnamon and oak. All right, let's finally get to tasting this, shall we? Again. So for the colour, I'm thinking that's more of a chestnut, kind of a muscety sort of colour. It is quite a nice colour, I have to say. And as for the legs, there we go. There's some nice, thick, slowly moving legs around the back there. Well, that's just lovely. All right, let's see what we get on the nose. Oh, man, that is strong red berries. It's, yep, I definitely still getting plum. A little bit of cherry too, actually, and some of the usual suspects, a bit of vanilla. It's just a heavenly rich kind of nose, you know. It's got this beautiful, strong sort of almost. It's not quite as umami as something like a peated whiskey. It's not peated, but it's got that sort of really strong, drawing you in kind of a deep nose on it. It smells rich. It really does. It smells yummy. All right, let's see how we go. Oh, yum. That is a very oily and chewy mouthfeel. It's got this nice sort of consistent sort of burn across the middle of the palate towards the back. And it just carries those flavors, like, definitely nice. I would say it's actually quite a strong burnt caramel, to be honest. I know I said previously I said it was a burnt caramel. It actually is quite stronger. It's stronger burnt caramel than I remember. But those berries, it's like a dark cherry kind of a flavor on it. And there's something, yeah, put a pin in that for a second. There's definitely a little bit of oak on it as well. Which, you know, I don't mind. It's not over oaked. It's not like really strong, but it is certainly quite nice. And on that finish, I've got to say, it's probably a moderate length finish, actually. And it's the little tiny bit of spice on there. Well, I hate to agree with myself, but I have to agree with myself. I mean, it's actually really, really nice. It is as good as I remember. It's kind of interesting that they haven't posted this on their website yet. I'm sure they'll get to it, but I mean, goodness me. Let me just have another go at this. I have to say, it's almost slightly, a bit of a slightly honey scent to it as well. Like, it smells sweet-ish, but it doesn't taste sweet. Oh. It is a strong, in-your-face kind of whiskey. I thought, initially on the nose, it has elements of that I would say are similar to a Starward Nova, you know, but this has got a higher ABV than a Starward Nova does. But it's not just that. The mouthfeel and the presence on the palate is so much stronger than a Starward Nova. Like this, like the Nova's more like, it almost tastes a little bit like a lolly. It's like, it doesn't even taste like a whiskey. I mean, it does, but, you know, it's not. But this is much bolder, much stronger, and damn, I do like this. And I mean, honestly, $135 plus $10 postage. I mean, that's oof. All right. Okay, so where does this sit? We got to rate this puppy. So as I said before, AOB are a craft distillery because they produce less than 450 kiloliters every year. So therefore, with that cost bracket, it makes it a cost of 2. It's good. It's affordable for good craft whiskey. But where does it sit in terms of quality? I mean, honestly, I really quite enjoy this. I would say it's an easy 3. Actually, I can't remember what I rated this last time. It's the sort of thing that, you know, when I'm doing prep for these re-reviews, I should probably write that down. But anyway, irrespective, genuinely, this is an easy 3. The question is it a 4? Because it kind of does make me chuckle a little bit. I mean, and it's not just... You know what? I reckon it's a 3, but it's a high 3. And I genuinely believe that this is fantastic value for what it is. And yeah, I do like it. It's not the sort of thing that I want to have a lot of in one sitting, obviously, because it is so strong and so bold. But geez, it's good, eh? All right. So anyhow, all right. So for a 2 for cost and a 3 for quality, that makes this a green. And honestly, having some of these on your shelf, not a bad idea. So thank you so much, AOB, for letting me buy a bottle of this. And honestly, even when this one's gone, still got a fair bit left, but you know, when it's gone, I may be replacing it. It's pretty damn good. So cheers. See you next time. Oh, that mouthfeel just sells it, eh? So yummy.